Let's talk about women's health and ADHD and how that affects your productivity. I'm Catherine Lizardo. I'm a thriving ADHD mom, speaker, and lawyer. One of my goals is to fast track your understanding of women's health and ADHD. This is severely under researched area about ADHD, especially the effect of hormonal changes to women. The first study ever published in a scientific journal was in 2021. That was 3 years ago at the time of me recording this video. And then early in 2024, another research study was published in a scientific journal that had more information about the effects of menstrual cycle and ADHD. There were other published articles in between that, but what I want to focus on is just realizing how recent these studies are and how there is more that needs to be done. In the meantime, while we, women with ADHD who are not doing research, are waiting for these research articles, we can do something about this, which is to fast track their understanding and also to monitor our own hormonal changes. How we monitor our hormonal changes can help future research as well. And I'll go over that here in this video, but I just wanted to plant that seed as you're listening to what I'm about to explain. And I'll have links to these research articles that I've read where I synthesized and summarized and simplified them here in this video. So this will be likely a very oversimplification of what I've read, but this is how my ADHD brain has analyzed it, and I wanted to go ahead and share that with you. Since I'm a lawyer, I have a disclaimer as well that I am not a doctor. I am not in any medical field whatsoever. Again, this is just me reading these scientific articles because I am a proud geek. I read scientific articles for fun. And I love synthesizing and simplifying complicated information, whether in law, in science, in math, in history, in philosophy, and then simplifying them and sharing them with others so we can all enjoy and benefit the information. So let's go and get started. This is my simplified graph of our menstrual cycles. This part is the level of our estrogen that goes up, and these are the days of when we have our menstrual cycle from day 1 to day 28. This is a 28-day menstrual cycle because it is the most common and simplified version that we can use for analyzing our different hormonal levels and ADHD symptoms. I know and recognize that other women have a different cycle, so I'm just using this to make it simple and easier for all of us. So as you can see here, on day 2, for example, is when the estrogen level is still low when we have our period, and then it goes up, 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 and then day 12 is somewhat around the peak of our estrogen level right here, and then there's a big drop down right here. And then around the day 16 of our period, it starts going up a little bit more. And then around day 22, our estrogen level goes down again until the start of our next period right here. And the cycle goes on month after month after month until we reach perimenopause, menopause, and old age. So as you can see, this is an important graph because we experience this every month for a long time of our women's lifespan. And this is what I like to call the curves that are worth remembering. These should be the curves that women, especially women with ADHD, need to remember. These two bumpy curves like here, that looks like a camel. There's a big curve up and a big down, and then a curve that looks like a mountain right there. What this graph means is this: based on the scientific research that has been done to date, low estrogen, when we have low estrogen, it means that we have worsened mood, we have worsened executive functions, and we have worsened ADHD symptoms. This is in red here because that signifies the time during each month, during our menstrual cycle, well, we have this low estrogen. As you can see from our first day of period, going down to around day 6, and then from day 12, going around day 16, and then day 22, going to day 28. Again, this is simplified version, but I'm just trying to show you how it generally looks that we have worse ADHD symptoms during these 3 times of the dip of our uh, estrogen levels. And then high estrogen levels is very good for us because it means we're in a better mood, we have better executive functions. I mean, we're already having executive function issues because of our ADHD. So having higher estrogen levels helps our executive function, and we have better managed ADHD symptoms. And it's yellow here because that signifies the yellow parts here of our menstrual cycle, how it's on day 6 to day 12. We have high estrogen, as you can see, so high, and we're feeling great around these days, and then it dips. it's I shouldn't be laughing, but it's really like bad for me when I have that kind of dip. I just laugh and have humor with it and self compassion when that happens. And this is another part of when estrogen level goes up again. Now, something very interesting to note is that from day 6 to day 12, so that's 7 days, because women, as you know, we count the day of period as day 1. So 7 days there, and another 7 days from day 16 to day 22. So here, we have a total of 14 days to leverage and maximize our productivity. Let me say that again. We have 14 days out of a 30-day month to maximize our productivity. Yes, it sucks. The first time I realized that, I was in shock, thinking the other 2 weeks of the month is going to be hard. But then once I've understood and realized that and accepted it, there's nothing I can do about it. Biologically, that's how I'm built. I have to realize that 2 weeks out of each month, I'm going to be highly productive. And the other 2 weeks of each month, I have to have a better coping mechanism for my ADHD symptoms. That's why it's so critical for us women to know women's health and its effect on our ADHD. This is our biggest friction in terms of trying to deal with this every day of our lives, every month, every cycle. And this is just when we have a menstrual cycle. When we get pregnant, it's different. After pregnancy, it's different. While we're breastfeeding, it's different. When we reach perimenopause, our ADHD symptoms are different. When we reach menopause, it changes again. And then when we reach old age, it changes again. So women have a very complicated ADHD symptoms and women's health that we need to research further. But it's, as I mentioned, it's lacking right now. But here's some important facts to think about. First, menstrual cycle affects our hormonal changes, as I showed with the estrogen level going up and down. And there are other hormones involved with our menstrual cycle. I'm just simplifying it by talking about our estrogen. So our menstrual cycle affects our hormones, and these hormonal changes directly impacts our ADHD symptom. Once you remember, notice, you can give yourself grace when these dips in our estrogen level happens. Also, your ADHD medication might not work during certain times of your menstrual cycle. That will likely happen during these big dips. I was having such a hard time with these big dips that, yeah, I realized my ADHD medication was not working. And good thing I was going to therapy. If you've heard my TED talk and my other interviews, I've mentioned, and I'm very open in saying that I go to therapy once a week for the past 20 years or so, ever since I was diagnosed, because it's part of my ADHD treatment. And I'm glad that I have been going to therapy because my therapist and I were monitoring my menstrual cycle and talking about it every week. And she suggested I talk to my psychiatrist about my medication and maybe increasing my medication around the time that these dips happen. And that's what I did. I talked to my psychiatrist and told them about this. Because of the limited research about all of this, at first my psychiatrist was unsure, my own psychiatrist was unsure how to implement these medication changes. And psychiatrists did more research. They realized, okay, let's give this a try. So they increased my stimulant medication dosage around this time of my cycle. And when that happened, it was life changing. I felt the difference. So I had to change my medication dosage and increase it around this time because I significantly felt the big difference of my medication when my estrogen level is so low, and it worsened my mood, executive functions, and my ADHD symptom. And by taking my medication with more dosage around this time, then it helped me manage my ADHD symptoms better. And then I go back to my regular medication dosages around this time. That's how we worked it out when I was dealing with the different menstrual cycle and hormonal changes that I was having. Now, the recommendation of the scientific journals I've read is that women monitor two menstrual cycles and monitor your mood symptoms, monitor your ADHD symptoms, and if you're taking medication, monitor the effectiveness of your ADHD medication. In addition to our ADHD symptoms, we have to take into consideration our women's health, not just the menstrual cycle, but where we are in our women's health, especially in our aging process. There are a lot of women that have been diagnosed recently over 40, so it's very late in the stage, and around that time is when perimenopause happens. I myself am monitoring and journaling my menstrual cycle and figuring out how my mood symptoms, ADHD symptoms, and medication are affected and relating to each other. Then I take that to my doctor and show them my data. If more and more women do this, then there will be more anecdotes and more actual monitoring that the other scientists, other researchers can use. But there have been many anecdotes and stories of women realizing that their ADHD symptoms have been severely affected by their changing hormones. Since I'm a speaker, you might have heard me mention that I want to change policies globally to promote mental health compassion, especially for ADHD and women's health, because it's so much needed and under researched. That's why I'm hoping to speak in global platforms. I've spoken in TED Talks. I want to speak in World Economic Forum, in the United Nations, and other global platform that needs to hear how our personal experiences with our ADHD can be debilitating, and knowing that we have 14 days to be really highly productive. You can't say mind over matter because our hormones are not helping us with that, on top of our executive function challenges with our ADHD. One scientific article called it a double whammy for women. And it's true. It is a double whammy for us. So let's understand our own ADHD and women's health. And as we gather more data, as more women gather more data, as more research is funded, and let's encourage that women's funding of these types of research. The women's health gap is so wide right now. In 2020, only 1% of the health research were actually implemented for women's health. That was in 2020. That was just 4 years ago. So let's put more money in women's health and promote that. And let's be active in understanding our own women's health. I'll see you in the next video.